Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the BielsaBallPodcast with me, Tommy Röckit, and you,
Jeff Edwards.
This podcast is brand new. It's going to be something that we do before every game, every forthcoming game, hopefully, where we'll have some guests on. Hopefully we'll get some former players in. We'll get some other fans in for their perspective. And what we'll do is we'll talk about the upcoming game. We'll talk about where we need to improve, transfers, and so on. So, Jeff, episode 1, where do we start?
Well, I'd start with the upcoming FA Cup game. In recent years, we haven't had much luck in the FA Cup, as you know. I don't think we made it past the 4th or 5th round. But I'd say Bielsa will start a young side, if I had to guess. I'd say Kiko will be starting and a couple of the young guys at the back, Creswell, Davis, etc. Would you agree, Tommy?
Yeah, I definitely agree that a lot of the kids are going to play. I think we'll see a large portion of the under-23 squad taking part in the game. I think he'll fill the gaps as well with some of the more experienced players. As we know, Calvin Phillips is suspended for the next Premier League game. So I think to keep his match sharpness up, I think he'll start the game. So this is my predicted 11. As we know, none of us can be in the head of Marcelo Bielsa, and we never know what he's thinking. And you can be guaranteed if you do think that you know what he's thinking, you're wrong. So my predicted 11, as I just have here, is Kiko Casilla in goal, Jamie Shackleton at right back, and Niall Huggins at left back, who I think has really earned the stripes. He's really impressed me in the 23 games I've seen so far. Casey and Davis as my 2 centre backs. The reason I'm going with them, now I could be wrong, if either Llorente or Cooper are fit to play, it'll be good game time for them as far as Bielsa's concerned. However, I don't know if he'll risk them in a game like this either. So I'm going to shoot for the 2 young guys to play. The reason I haven't gone for Strike or maybe somebody else who would be obvious is because I don't think we can afford any more injuries in that particular part of the field. And we'll be giving 2 kids a bit of game time as well. Well earned. I think the midfield for me, personally, like I say, you never know what Marcelo is going to do. But I think the midfield picks itself. I think Poveda on the right-hand side with Costa on the left. We'll have Pablo sitting in the centre, and we'll have Roberts in the number 10 role. And then up front, what I'd really like to see, and what I think most Leeds United fans want to see, is Rodrigo playing in that number 9 role. We can afford to rest Bamford, and we can see what Rodrigo is all about in that number 9 position against lower opposition as well, but we get a chance to see him.
Yeah, I probably agree with you, Tommy, there. I wonder, would he put on the bench? Would he put Greenwood on the bench? Because he's done well for the under-23s.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility of that, all right. The players that I chose, I based on who has actually been on the bench throughout the season so far. You look at the likes of Greenwood, and he hasn't yet been on the bench for a Premier League game. Doesn't mean he won't be on Sunday for the Crawley Town game. I think there's a very good chance that he could possibly make his first team debut in that game. There'll be a couple of other players. I know Joe Geldhart got off to a great start to the season with the 23s. I'm not sure if he's available this weekend, however. He's a player who already has first team experiences for Wigan last season and done quite well. Scored a couple of really tasty goals too. So he is another player that I'd be very interested in seeing playing in the FA Cup. Hopefully we can get a bit of a run. As you said in the build-up, we haven't had the best of luck in the FA Cup over the last number of years. We've gone out to some real minnows. Saying that, we've had a few scalps, a few unlucky performances. You're very, very unlucky against Arsenal last season. We just lacked maybe that little bit of experience and a little bit of quality to get us over the line in that game. But like I say, we've knocked Tottenham out in the past few years, 2013. And we knocked Man United out in 2010. So, what we need to do on Sunday is just to keep our eye on the ball. Don't let don't let it slip through our fingers, because the FA Cup could be very, very important to Leeds come the latter part of the season, when we might need a little bit of experience and depth from players who wouldn't ordinarily get a game in the Premier League.
Yeah, exactly. Like Roberts, hopefully will get a bit of a run. There's a lot of people say he could be coming out of the door at Leeds, possibly on loan or for good. Like I like Roberts. He's still young enough. I'd say Bielsa could do a lot with him, but maybe just put him out on loan to get that bit more experience, maybe to championship side.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule that out, to be honest. But I think the reason Bielsa won't do that is because we're already light in that position. If, for example, we had a similar crisis with centre forwards as we do with centre backs, we'd have nobody to play there, essentially. You'd probably be looking at Rafinha or Jack Harrison to fill in that striker role if Rodrigo, Patrick Bamford and Tyler Roberts were all out, for example. So I think unless we bring somebody in who's a natural striker, I don't think Roberts would go. I think he's young, I think he's enthusiastic, and I think it's been a little bit unfair on him so far because he hasn't really got the opportunity to play as that number 9, as the kind of out-and-out striker. He's kind of playing the midfield, a little bit similar to the Rodrigo situation. I don't think we've seen the best of Rodrigo yet because I think that he feels that he's a little bit restrained playing in the position that he's playing in. But would I loan Roberts out? No. I think we have bigger plans for him. But can Roberts do better than he's doing at the moment? I think he can. I think he needs to. I think he needs to adjust to the level of the Premier League, like a few others in the squad. He needs to adjust to the quality that we've just been promoted to.
It's going to take time. Like for certain, Rafinha and Rodrigo haven't showed their money's worth yet, but I'm confident they will. They just need time. Because as you know, it's a different league. Like the Premier League is a lot faster, a lot more physical than the Spanish and Portuguese league.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have seen some real class from both of those players, just maybe not on the consistency levels that we hoped they would. So I suppose when you're a Leeds fan and you've gone through the last, I wouldn't even say 16 years, maybe 18 years, where we haven't really signed any big players. We haven't really spent any big money. And now the fact that we're spending even double figures, millions-wise, tens and 20s and millions on players, maybe we expect too much. Maybe the quality that we are signing isn't what we think it is, because an average really good player these days probably costs 40 or 50 million. So I suppose for us Leeds fans kind of being out of touch with where the game has gone financially and how much players are allegedly worth, are we expecting too much from Rodrigo and Rafinha? Are they doing exactly what we thought they would do? I think we could get a little bit more out of both of them. I read an article about Rafinha when we first signed him because I had never heard of him. And they said that he looked like the player who almost fulfilled his potential with Rennes in France. And I think that same phrase could be summed up for his career so far with Leeds. Couple of absolute beautiful moments as well. His passing, his vision looks absolutely top quality. His goal against Everton and then his goal as well against Newcastle. Both beautiful goals. But let's hope we can see a little bit more of them in the quality stakes.
Yeah, I probably agree. We've seen bits and pieces of them, but not their money worth yet. I agree with that. Like, don't get me wrong, Rafinha scored the beauty against Everton and the beauty against West Brom, but obviously it's going to take time, as we keep saying, that to fill his potential. I reckon Bielsa will get the best out of the players, no doubt about it. It's going to take time.
Yeah, as well. Yeah, sorry, that goal was against West Brom, not Newcastle. I was trying to think. I knew it was one of the routes. But yeah, I suppose the unusual thing about Rodrigo and Rafinha from our past experience under Marcelo Bielsa is that they both got thrown into the team fairly early on in their Leeds career. Obviously, we spent big money on them and he felt that they were ready for it. Whereas we've seen with some other players that we signed, it took them even a matter of months before they actually made first team appearances. So I suppose they're still probably learning the Bielsa way as it goes on. I'm sure there's a lot to remember being a Leeds player at the moment. You're looking at the formations that we start out with when we have the ball, when we don't have the ball. Sometimes we have players trading places, and I know at one point we had the Alioski and Dallas trade, where Dallas was playing midfield, Alioski left back, and the similar thing happens where Calvin Phillips playing centre back and stuff like that when Ayling goes forward. So there's so much to remember that I'm sure these guys who are new to the squad over the last 6-7 months are only adapting, and I can only imagine they'll get better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's going to take time. Like it took all like a lot of players we have. It took time for them to develop. Like you got a lot of like Bielsa did wonders with Klitschko. Klitschko was a very kind of like he didn't do so well his first time under Christensen, as you know, but apparently when Bielsa first came, Klitschko was on the list to leave, but then Bielsa got a lot out of him, so he turned him into a superstar. That's what he's known for, turning average players into superstars.
Yeah, well, there you go. I think I heard some story about Click, and there was a friendly against Atalanta pre-season, and we think we had a couple of players pulled out or got injured or something like that, and he ended up playing Click in that number 8 role. I think he had him penned in to play centre half, and he ended up playing as the number 8. And the rest of his stay is history. I don't think we've had a game where Click hasn't started since Bielsa took over. Maybe there's the odd League Cup match, but I think he started every league game under Bielsa since he took over, and that says volumes for how well Click does. Like he's a machine. He's one of those players who doesn't get tired. He's box to box. He's box to box. At times he looks a little bit on the fatigued side. I noticed he's been getting taken off a lot in the last few weeks, and that's where I'm worried for Leeds moving into the second half of the season. Is, do we have enough energy in the midfield areas? And I don't think we do. I think that's one area that we need to improve on the January transfer window. We tried and unfortunately failed with the likes of Constantine and Rodrigo de Paul in the pre-season, but I think that's an area now we need to address in January. And I think that Marcelo understands that. And I think that's why Shackleton has played so much in that midfield role, coming in for or Dallas, depending on if Shackleton goes to right back or not. But I do definitely think that we need to get somebody in there with Click just to share the workload.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Or even give Klitschko a bit of a break because his legs look a bit tired. Maybe put Shackleton in that position and give Klitschko a bit of a break.
Yeah, he seems a little bit more likely to put Dallas in that position and bring Shackleton on as a right back, which I think works as well. I quite like Jamie Shackleton in that position. I just think at times, like a couple of the others, a little bit like Alioski and a little bit like Paveda, he's a little bit lightweight for that position. And I think that's why Dallas is preferred in the midfield.
Yeah. It's like, but to be honest with you, like, I don't think we can spend much money. We spend way too much as it is, because I'd say they'd be looking at 30 odd million for De Paul. I don't think we could afford that. We'd have to maybe look even maybe possibly the championship to see if there are any players who could get in.
Yeah, I did read some articles saying that the ship had sailed with De Paul, but there is other players out there as well. You know, I wouldn't rule out getting a loan signing from somebody who's not getting in. Knowing Bielsa, there's probably somebody knocking around Real Madrid or Barcelona or Valencia who's not getting a game, who he might loan in till the end of the season. You never quite know what Victor Orta is at in the background either. You can guarantee that he probably has 3 or 4 if he's going for that position, and I don't see why he wouldn't, because he did already and failed, unfortunately. So I imagine he's another 3 or 4 players lined up to go into that position that he can go after now. We're always quiet in transfer windows, especially January. But I think going on to the end of the season, I think we could bring in another 2 more players. Whether they're on loan or whether they're permanent, I think we need to bring in a centre back. I think for cover, I think that's essential, an experienced one.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think we need to bring in a midfielder as well. In the long term, possibly, as much as I love Alioski and I think he's a very likeable character and I think he gives 100% in every game, I think we need a little bit more quality in that left back position. Alioski is a great player to come in for cover, but you can already see at times teams targeting him. They know that he's not necessarily because he's doing something wrong. It's just the fact that he goes forward so much that he leaves so many gaps in behind him. I think teams have exploited us in that position too many times this season.
I'd probably agree with you as well with that, but as well, I'd say maybe bring another goalie in, an experienced goalie, because I'd say Kiko would be out the door soon enough. So
yeah, it comes back to the old Kiko Garcia thing, and you know, he gets a bit of an unfair time, I think, from some of the fans. Yeah, he made some absolute howlers, none bigger than the Derby game in the playoffs the week before it as well against Ipswich. But what we got to remember is, bar the last 14, 15 games of last season, so whatever, 30 games he played in goal for, and we were flying. We were, I think we'd won 4 in a row by the time he actually got that suspension. But the suspension killed him in the end, essentially.
Yeah, I'd say he has no confidence because he got suspended and he wasn't playing too well. So I'd say a lot of pressure was on him as well, especially being a Leeds United player. A lot of pressure is on you, and well, the fans, social media, etc. So probably did no good for his confidence.
I wouldn't say so. I hate to bring up old news, but like on the likelihood of probability, banned for 12 games. On the likelihood of probability, I think is so unfair. 12 games, it's astronomical. When you look at the likes of Cavani and Man United, obviously what he tweeted, he didn't mean, but he tweeted it. The evidence was there. Even if he was being racist, the maximum ban he could have gotten was 6 games. He got 3 games. I know, I think he's appealing or something along the lines of that. But the maximum he could have got for openly texting what could have easily been a racist comment, maximum was 6 games. But on the likelihood of probability, Kiko got 12 matches. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really harsh. Yeah, but like, there's no room for racism in football, no doubt about it, or anywhere. But 100%. It's just like, I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can't say what exactly happened. But like, no matter what like background you come from, if you say anything bigotry, you should be suspended at the exact same time. You shouldn't be given one person gets 2 games banned, the other person gets 5 games banned. It should be all like a 12-game ban for everybody.
Yeah, I've seen some of the Uruguayan national players, the likes of Suarez and stuff like that, coming out and defending him, saying that the term he used was from their culture, and cultures in this day and age shouldn't be targeted. And who's to say? I know a few Spanish words, and I know what the meaning sounds like, but it's not what it means. You know, so I don't know. Maybe we're going off topic slightly, but Kiko Casilla's career at Leeds probably is coming to an end. Potentially, we need a goalkeeper. Where do we look for a goalkeeper? How much money are we going to spend on one? There's lots of, I don't know, the likes of Scott Carson. I know he's already played for us in the past. I know he's knocking around Man City and people like that. I think that's probably where we'll end up going. We'll end up going for one of those tried and tested old school goalkeepers that have been knocking around for a long time. But what we got to remember is Bielsa won't play a goalkeeper who is not neat with his feet, who can't pick out a pass and doesn't have a little bit of a football brain as well, which is why I think he really likes Ilan Meslier, because he has the ability to pass the ball sometimes, not at the appropriate times, unfortunately.
Yeah,
as we've seen.
Yeah, he made a howler against Tottenham that time, but he's still young. He's just learning on the job. Like, he's 20 and he doesn't even look 20.
Yeah, but what people are forgetting from that passage of play, yeah, he made the wrong decision in the past, but his recovery was absolutely top drawer. He got back to get down to make the save and got back up again to recover the tip that ball out for a corner. So actually, I think it went to our fullback. I think it might have went to Dallas. But his recovery from that was absolutely top drawer. And I think so far this season, as far as shot stoppers are concerned, I don't think I've seen many better goalkeepers in the Premier League than Meslier. He's pulled some absolute top drawer saves out. Like I say, he's 20. He's still learning on the job, as you say. But I think he has so much to offer. I could see him going on to be a future France #1 if he keeps going at the rate that he's going.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And as well, if we do get another goalie on loan or buy another goalie, experienced goalie, he can learn a lot from him as well. So I've no idea who Bielsa has in mind or Orta has in mind to bring in another goalie, but I trust them. Whatever decision they make to bring in someone on loan or permanent, I trust them. No doubt about it. And it'd be good for Meslier to get an older keeper to show him the ropes, as you say.
Well, I'm sure he's learning quite a lot from Casilla. You can say what you want about him. If he makes mistakes and he makes terrible decisions, Casillas sometimes. And but at the same time, with the experience of winning 3 Champions Leagues, now arguably he didn't play a great deal during those times, but he was still playing with some top quality players and some top quality goalkeepers with the likes of Zinedine Zidane as his manager. And you can only benefit from playing, from Meslier's point of view, benefit playing with a player that has been through that, as opposed to maybe getting in another 20-year-old who's hasn't experienced anything. So I think Kiko is important in the learning process as well for Meslier. So who knows? I don't see us buying a goalkeeper in January, but you never know.
You never know whether Kiko will be out the door this January. Who knows? Let's see what happens. But I do agree with you. We definitely need a new midfielder and a new defender, and possibly a new goalie. If not this transfer window, possibly in the new season, we definitely need to get someone else in.
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's a really hard to come by. Like, they probably have someone else in mind we don't know about yet. There's a few rumors going around the line. Are we going to sign this, that, the other? But to be honest, I don't believe it until kind of it's done. Because, like, think about it. Daniel James is an example.
Yeah, well, that old ship I think has already sailed. I think once the Swansea deal never went through and he ended up signing for Man United, I don't think we were ever going to get him back after that. He's very much part of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's plans at the Scum. So
exactly. And like other ones fell through. What was it? What's the young French guy? What was his name? He failed the medical.
Constantine, was it?
Yeah, that was Constantine. He failed a medical. Like he went to Ellen Road and everything, had a medical, went through everything, and he failed it because of that. We didn't sign him, and then we signed Rafinha the following week after, I think, was it?
Yeah, more or less that was the timeline. All right. We've been linked with a couple of other players. From what I've seen, the rumor mill going around. Man Tamori and from Chelsea, which I can't see happening. I know we did attempt from. My sources tell me we attempted to sign Gallagher, the young blonde lad who did he play with last season in the Championship? My mind's gone blank, sorry. But he's playing with West Brom now at the moment, and we attempted to get him on loan to sign him at one point, and Lampard, having the old rivalry with Bielsa from past experiences, stood in the way of it, as far as I know. So I can't say I'll sign anybody from Chelsea personally, but you never know. I don't know who else we've been linked with, but it can be guaranteed 9 times out of 10, there's absolutely no truth in what you're reading on your social media pages and your tabloid newspapers. So who knows? I wouldn't be surprised one bit if he got to the 31st of January at 11 or 12 o'clock and he hadn't signed anybody.
I wouldn't be surprised either. Like it happened all the time, but like as I said with Daniel James in the past, and I'm sure it's happened more than once as well with us, because it seems we always wait to the last minute. Like there's rumors going around. This isn't true. I don't believe this at all. Draxler, they're going to try to sign Draxler, which I don't believe at all. And plus, he's injury prone as well. So, signing him when he gets injured.
We're going to get all those kind of crazy things. I think we were linked with Cavani ourselves at one point, and I read something else about Diego Costa as well. But that's only because you've got the Spanish connection, and we know that we've signed a few players from Spain over the last while. But realistically, Leeds aren't going to be paying the wages that those guys are going to be demanding. And I think if we did, we'd be setting off a trend that we don't really want at the club. Well, definitely not yet with our first year back up.
And there's another rumour they're going to try to sign Johnstone from West Brom, the goalie, which I don't think West Brom would let him go. I don't see it happening.
Like I say, you can be guaranteed that if there's a player or a position that we need to sign, that Victor Orta is already on the case. And as I say, 90% of the time, I've never heard of the player, and I'd be well keyed in on British football, maybe a bit of Spanish football and that. But sometimes I've just never heard of the player. Robin Koch, never heard of him before he signed for Leeds. Rafinha, never heard of him before he signed for Leeds. So God knows who they're looking at. You can be guaranteed whoever's on social network and tabloid newspapers is not the one that we're actually after. Once we do start getting a little bit of heat behind the player, we'll know all about it.
Yeah, we will. Like it's going to be the next few weeks is going to see what happens with Leeds.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the FA Cup, and as I say, it's a great tournament, and it's something that I'd love to see Leeds getting a run in. We haven't had a proper run in the FA Cup since I think it was in around 1999 when we got to the quarterfinals and Wolves knocked us out. Robbie Keane scored for them. I could be wrong with the dates, but it was more or less then. But we haven't had a decent run in the FA Cup in a long, long time. So I would like to see us progress in that tournament. But ultimately, the goal for this season now is to start building on the 23 points. We've got 23 points, don't forget. And we still have 2 games to go before we reach the halfway mark in the league, which is 19 games. So after 17 games, we're already 3 points better off than the target. Because the target after the halfway point's got to be 20 points. So where we are at the moment is a very healthy position. We're closer now to top of the league or Champions League than we are to the relegation zone, which speaks volumes. People wanting Bielsa to change his formation, to change his way of play. Why? Why should we? It's working. It may not be working against Tottenham's or Manchester United's or Chelsea's, but it's working against the teams that we need to beat. And ultimately, the teams that we need to beat are the teams around us and the teams below us. At the same time, we can nick a point. We nicked a point off Manchester City. We nicked 3 points off Everton and Aston Villa as well. You know, we beat them convincingly, and they're doing very well so far this season. So you look at that, that's 7 points out of what you consider probably the top 5 or 6 teams in the league so far. And we're beating all the teams that are below us. So I think the direction that we're going, right, we're talking about all these transfers and all these things that we need to do. I also think, on the flip side, that the entire squad is so well tuned into the positions that they are assigned to. And Bielsa loves to hold 2 positions per player. And unless you're Stuart Dallas, you've about 11 positions. But you have your 2 positions, and you've got your runs, you've got your positional changes, you've got the pattern of play that you need to follow and you need to learn there. And I think no matter who comes in, I think each player knows their role already.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bielsa will probably think that he has enough in the current squad to get through till the end of the season, no matter who has to come in and replace who.
Yeah, like he's set in his ways. Even when he matches Argentina back in 2002 World Cup, he was set in his ways. He had his formation. And even there was kind of 2 strikers, the main strikers at the time, used to say to Bielsa, we should be playing together, we should be playing together. And he's like, no, I want to do it my way.
There was Canija and Batistuta, I think it was.
Yeah.
But like all great managers, they all have their way of doing things. And the majority of them are quite stubborn. And Bielsa's no different. I suppose the advantage of being a Leeds fan at this moment in time and having a manager that's stubborn, we could have one of those guys that just throws everybody behind the ball and just tries not to lose a game. And it'd be very, very frustrating. But instead, we have the polar opposite. We have a manager who wants all-out attack. He's consciously telling his players before they go out, take risks, take risks, take risks. And that's fantastic because that puts no fear in the player to make a mistake. It means he's actively encouraged to go out and try and play, try and make that pass. If it doesn't come off, we get back, we try and retrieve the ball and come back out again. It doesn't always work. Sometimes you can see it. But I think that Marcelo Bielsa's way of playing football is the reason they call football the beautiful game. They don't call it the beautiful game because Sam Allardyce is coming in, he's throwing 6 defenders in and 4 midfielders in front of them, and he's trying his best not to lose. That might be Sam Allardyce's way of doing things, trying to keep teams up. But Bielsa is a different kettle of fish altogether. He is a manager that has a vision. He knows what he wants. He knows how to do it. He just needs persistence, and he needs a little bit of quality in the players and understanding as well. We could go through so many great managers down the years. Anybody from Alex Ferguson, he had his way of doing things, and his way of doing things is he's in charge, he's right. It doesn't matter who you are, how good you are, how big a star you are. If you're not being part of this team, if you're Jaap Stam, if you're Ruud van Nistelrooy, if you're David Beckham or Roy Keane, and you're not doing what you're doing, out the door you go. Mourinho, another great manager, very different to the way Bielsa does things. In fact, in my opinion, the polar opposite. He's a kind of manager that sits back, defends, and hits on the break, which is why the Tottenham connection suits him so well, because Harry Kane and Son are so quick out of the blocks that it almost plays into the hands of the way that Mourinho coaches, which is why I think he took the job. I remember he won the Champions League with Inter Milan a number of years ago, and that's kind of the way he played then as well. So all great managers have their way of doing it. They have a plan A, and Bielsa has a plan A. And there is no plan B. His plan A will eventually work. And I think it says a lot for the players that are playing at Leeds United, considering the majority of them were sitting mid-table in the Championship 3 years ago. And now we're sitting mid-table in the Premier League and putting her up to the big boys. Bielsa's way works. Bielsa should continue doing what he's doing. And the fans are loving it.
Yeah, I totally agree, Tommy. Like, it's, as I said to you earlier, he turned average players into superstars. He's known for that. Like, he's just brilliant. Like, I still never talked to one guy about it, and he's telling me they say it's chaos, but it's organized chaos is football.
I don't know if I'd call it chaos.
That's what the phrase what some people use that I've talked about. Al Loco, as they like to call him.
I'd understand that phrase being used, but what Bielsa does is the complete opposite to chaos. It's organization down to a fine tooth comb. Everything is left. There's nothing left to chance. Every single aspect and detail of his game plan is covered. And I think the reason that it works so well, I think if it was chaos, I don't think we'd be where we are at the moment. I think the fact that he knows so well what he wants each player and each individual to do, that it's easier for that player to understand what their role is. I think if it was chaos, I don't think players would understand it, and I don't think we'd be doing as well as we're doing. I don't think we would have won the championship by 10 points last season. I think what Bielsa has going there at the moment, the style of play that he's playing, I think it's genius. I don't think there's any other way of explaining it. It's organized. Is it chaos? No. Is it genius? I think it is.
Yeah, it's genius. Like I just heard that phrase a couple of organized chaos. Like don't get me wrong, he's probably one of the best managers in the world at this time ever. Really, like Pep loves him. All the top managers in the world seem to love him. So it's lucky we got him, because I remember like hearing that they never thought they were going to get Bielsa. Like, I think they even sat down with a couple of managers. Let's think off the top of my head who they sat down with before they went for Bielsa. What's his name? The Leicester City. He won the league with Leicester City. They sat down with him. His name?
Claudio Ranieri.
Yeah, they sat down with him. We were linked with him, but they said like a plan, but it didn't really go. They didn't agree with the plan or something like that. I don't know whether that's true or not. But yeah, compared to sit down with two people.
I think from what I heard anyway, it was a bit of an outrageous kind of, if you're looking at the transfer market and you say, who will we sign? They'll go, Lionel Messi. I think that's the way the conversation went, but in the managerial aspect, who will we get as the manager? Why don't we get Marcelo Bielsa?
Yeah.
Well, why don't we get Marcelo Bielsa?
Exactly.
Let's call him. And it was a stroke of genius. You look back at it now, and you look at how much money that we've paid Marcelo in wages. You wouldn't get a 2-footed left back for it now these days. It's only a few million, and that few million has raised the value in so many players of that squad. What an investment! You look at how much Patrick Bamford is probably worth now. I remember when we sold Ronaldo Vieira and we bought Patrick Bamford, people were going, "What are you guys doing?" And to be honest, Bamford came in for a lot of criticism in his first couple of years at Leeds, probably rightly so, because he missed quite a lot of chances that he should have scored. But I think this year he's just worth his weight in goals, and I think with the 9 goals that he's got, is it 9, 10 goals he's got so far this season? I can only see if Patrick Bamford were to leave Leeds in January, touch wood, it doesn't happen. I think his price tag would be somewhere in around the 20 to 30 million mark. You go through that entire squad and you look at how much those players are worth now. Luke Ayling's probably worth about 15 million easily at the moment, the way he's going. Some people might disagree with me when I say that. I'm just throwing out numbers here, but there's so many of those players that have increased in value since Marcelo Bielsa came over. When you look at Bielsa's wages, you might think it's high for a manager, but what an investment! Look how much it's paid off for us. We're playing Premier League football, and we probably have 10 average players playing in our squad at the moment who were probably worth a couple of million when Bielsa took over, and they're probably worth 10 plus now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's what he's known for doing. Like, he gets the best out of his players. Like, the players were saying not so long ago, I saw on the Leeds YouTube channel, they were saying there's this thing called murder ball they play, and basically there's no fouls, there's no throw-ins, just keep on going.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I do a bit of coaching myself, and I coach the kids. But yeah, murder ball sounds like a hell of a game. I don't think it's what Bielsa calls it. I just think it's what his players call it because it's so intense and so fast tempo, fast speed, and you can only improve playing that kind of football in training. Your touch, your thinking, your vision, they all have to be so accurate all the time, and you can see it at times with Leeds. For example, if there's a goal kick and Meslier rolls it out to Luke Ayling on the right hand side, for example, you can see Phillips dropping in, you can see Rafinha pulling out to the right, and you can see the ball when the ball's played 1-2s and all that kind of stuff. That's where that actually comes from. It's from the murder ball. It's from the vision and the speed of thinking and the risk as well that we were talking about earlier to get into the position and to try and play that pass. And the amount of times it's worked this season where we're playing balls out of the back and breaking and scoring. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Maybe the Jack Harrison one.
That was another one against Newcastle. That was brilliant.
And the Gianni Alioski goal is a great example of that as well. Was that against Newcastle?
Or was it against West Brom?
West Brom. I keep mixing all the goals up from them two matches. But it was against West Brom. So murder ball. It seems like it's a grueling game. I don't think I'd be able for it now.
I could imagine O'Leary's babes doing that, like Mark Vidukas and Eric Bacas and
Michael Bridges and his McDonald's vouchers. No, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine any of the O'Leary team being able for it. I reckon there's a few players that were, the likes of Lee Bowyer, Gary Kelly probably be able for it, but it's a different ball game to where we were 20 years ago. It's 20 years since we reached the Champions League semi-final. I mean, I almost hate referring back to that now. It's actually got to that point with me now that I actually don't like looking back on that team, because for all the good memories, there's a bad memory just around the corner from that era. No matter what you think about, it'd be great nights in the San Siro. I mean, beating Lazio and putting it up to everybody in the Champions League and the season before in Europa or the UEFA Cup. Excuse me, as it was then. But could I see many of those players being up for murder ball if you were to portal them into 20 years into the future? I don't think so.
Maybe Alan Smith and Oliver Dakors could do it, or there's a couple of players that I could think that certainly wouldn't be able for it, but I wouldn't say.
Yeah, I think there's a different from what word am I looking for? Athleticism in football than there was even 20 years ago. I'm not quite sure how to explain it, but you might have had a player with a bit of a belly on him back then. You just wouldn't get that now in the top flight. Maybe down in League One or League Two you might, but I think those players that you've mentioned, top quality players as they are, your Alan Smiths, Vidukas, and Olivier Dakors, I couldn't really see them adapting straight into that Bielsa team in the level of fitness that we had back then. I don't think you required it.
Yeah, there's a different times now compared to now. But I could take one or two players from that team 20 years ago that would come on this team that would help us out tremendously. But I'd say a lot of that team wouldn't be able for Bielsa's system.
Not initially. Maybe as time went on. There's a few lazy kids in that team, as we remember. But I'd love to see somebody like Lee Bowyer coming into this current team. If I could pick one player from that era and put him into the current team, for me it'd be Lee Bowyer, because I think that's the exact position that we were talking about earlier, that we need a player who's box to box, has a set of balls on him, and is able to control the game, get on the ball, control it both going back and going forward. And he's quite a versatile player as well, because he could play out wide when needed. But he'd be the perfect player for that midfield for Leeds now. Unfortunately, he's a little bit too old and currently managed in Charlton in League One. But if I could transform one player, if you could transform one player, Jeff, from that team into the current team, who would you transform?
Well, to be honest with you, I used to love Nigel Martin. He was a brilliant goalie. Like, he made some phenomenal saves. I'd probably pick Nigel Martin.
Shout. Yeah, that's a great shout. Nigel Martin. I'm sure I wouldn't find many Leeds fans who would disagree with him being our greatest keeper of all time. I think you could put Nigel Martin into any era of Leeds team, be it the Reevy team of the 60s and 70s, the Harold Wilkinson side of the early 90s, or even the current Bielsa team. I think Nigel Martin would be a standout top quality player. That's a great shout, by the way.
No doubt about it. And I'd really Boyer as well, but if I had to pick one player, I'd probably pick Nigel Martin in nets. No doubt about it. And I'm sure he'd be good for our current keepers' confidence and teach him a lot. Yeah, no doubt about it.
100%. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So I suppose we're getting towards the end of the show now. So what you would usually do before we finish the show here on the Bielsa Ball podcast, we'll have score predictions for Sunday. Obviously, it's very difficult. Bielsa's press conference is not till tomorrow, so we probably won't get any inkling as to what players are playing. Already, you've seen the pre-match interviews with Jamie Shackleton and Ian Poveda, and the pre-match interviews always kind of gives you some sort of idea as to who is playing. You can be guaranteed both of those guys are starting. So based on that, with not much else to go on, what is your prediction away to Crawley Town on Sunday?
I never like talking negative about Leeds, but it could either go very, very pear-shaped against lower tier club, or we could do well. So I'm going to guess I'm going to say 2-1 Leeds.
Going to go 2-1. It's quite conservative.
Because don't forget it. He's probably going to start a lot of young lads and maybe a couple of experienced players like Pablo and Kiko.
Yeah, I think so. Again, for Crawley, it's got to be a massive game for them. They're playing against the talk of the town at the moment. So, and we're a Premier League team now, which we haven't been in 16 years. And that's exactly how Crawley are looking at it. Our opportunity to cause a big upset against what's now a Premier League team is that Leeds wasn't a tasty enough fixture. We're back in the big time and doing really well, sitting in 11th or 12th. So, I think Crawley are going to come out to try and cause an upset. I think what they'll initially do, I think they'll show a lot of players behind the ball and they'll try to make it difficult for us, like most teams do. But there will have to come a time where Crawley will have to come out and play at times. And I think that's where we'll get in and really upset them. Because once we score one, Crawley have to come out and play. I would probably go for something along the lines of 4-0. That's my personal prediction. I think if the team that I predicted earlier starts the game, as you can see there, Poveda, Pablo Hernandez, Robertson, Costa. If that is the midfield, we have no excuses for not winning that game. So much experience, so much quality. And if Rodrigo's playing up front, well then even better, because a Spanish international playing against Crawley Town really should be hitting the mark at least once or twice. So that's my prediction is 4-0. So I suppose, where do we go from here with Leeds? We look forward to the next Premier League game, which is Brighton, and a return to Ben White against his old side. So
it's on the box as well on Sky at 3:00 as well. So I'll be watching that. So,
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how Ben White. We're maybe getting carried away with ourselves here. We will talk about that in the next episode, but it will be tasty to see Ben White playing against us, and it's just a shame he's not going to be running out in a white shirt. So I suppose coming up to close to an hour now, and we'll probably be drawing the close on the first ever episode of the Bielsa Ball podcast with me, Tommy, and Jeff. We are available on Facebook. So if you go Facebook.com/Bielsa podcast, Bielsa Ball podcast. We're hoping to set up YouTube channels, Twitters, Instagrams, all in the near future. If you have any questions, if there's something you'd like us to talk about on the next podcast, message us below. Let us know what you thought of this one and share with your friends and try and get the word out. This is an Irish fan's perspective of Leeds United and how we're doing so far, how we think we play, who we think will buy in the January transfer window. And all Leeds, aren't we? So until next time, I've been Tommy.
And I'm Jeff Edwards. Thanks for watching.
MOT. Super Leeds.
Marching on together.